Greetings everyone. So this is tutorial sheet 8 question 1. Explain why the NPV of a relatively long-term project with a high percentage of its cash flows expected in the future is more sensitive to changes in the cost of capital than the NPV of a short-term project. I now hand over to Annalisa Dryden and Britannia Jackson.
Good night, everyone. Okay, so we'll be looking at question 1 on tutorial sheet 8. I'm Annalisa Dryden.
And I'm Britannia Jackson.
Okay, so the question is as follows. Explain why the NPV of the relatively long-term project, defined as one of which a high percentage of its cash flow are expected in the distant future, is more sensitive to change in the cost of capital than is the NPV of the short-term project. Okay, so I have NPV, which is known as net present value, assumes that the project cash flow are discounted in companies' costs of capital. Long-term projects are more sensitive to change in the cost of capital than short-term projects. This is because higher the terms of maturity, lesser the discount cash flow of the project. For example, a project A has maturity period of 4 years. Project B has a maturity period of 8 years. Both have 7% of cost of capital and both have 7,000 cash flow every year. Then cash flow. So this is the working out given so far, I would think. So cash flow for project A would be $6,442.06 plus $6,114.07 plus $5,714.09 plus $5,340.27. So the cash flow for project B would be $6,542.06 plus $6,114.07 plus $5,714.09 plus $5,340.27 plus $4,990.90 plus $4,664.0. Now I'll be handing over to my partner.
Okay, thank you, Annalisa. So as you can see, when the cost of capital increases from 7% to 10%, the cash flow for project X the figures will change from the above figures to this one below to 6,363.64 plus 5,785.12 plus 5,259.20 plus 4,781.09. And then for the cash flows for project Y, we will have the same figures, the same 4 figures with the addition of 4,346.45 plus 3,951.32. So as you can see, or as it can be seen in the example, the value of the cash flows for 7,000 is getting lower and lower each year after year. Again, when the cost of capital increases from 7% to 10%, the value of the discounted cash flows of 7,000 is lowered more, or it is more reduced. As it can be noticed, when the cost of capital raises from 7% to 10%, the discounted cash flows for the short-term project also reduced, but not as lower as the long-term project. And since they have a short-term maturity, the effect will be lower. Therefore, the long-term projects are a higher percentage of the cash flows expected and more sensitive to change in the interest rate. Now, little formula that you can take with you is that the net present value is equal to the total present value of inflows minus the total future value of outflows. We thank you. We were Annalisa Dryden and Britannia Jackson, and this is question 1.
All right, thank you, Annalisa. Thank you, Britannia. I now hand over to Christina Christian, who will give us her take.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ms. Christina Christian, and I'll be looking at question 1 from tutorial sheet 8. The question states, explain why the NPV of a relatively long-term project with a high percentage of its cash flows expected in the future is more sensitive to changes in the cost of capital than the NPV of a short-term project. So the answer is that the NPV of a relatively long-term project with a high percentage of its cash flows expected in the distant future is more sensitive to changes in cost of capital than in the NPV of a short-term project because their payments will be at the end of the project. The net profit value method discounts all cash flows at the project's cost of capital and then sums those cash flows at the end. Therefore, if the payments are at the end of the project, any shift in the cost of capital, positive or negative, the NPV is more sensitive because there is more time for change to occur. Because cash flows are discounted in each period, the longer it takes for an investment to reach maturity, the more discounting has taken place. And this is the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Christina. Now hand over to Jason Harris and Kirk Blake.
Okay, I'll start the recording.
All right. Good night, sir. My name is Jason Harris, and this is.
My name is Kurt Blake. We'll be doing tutorial sheet 8, question 1, and the question says, explain why the NPV of a relatively long-term project with a high percentage of its cash flows expected in the future is more sensitive to change in the cost of capital than the NPV of a short-term project. So from our discussion and what we found, it's mainly because any shift in the cost of capital with a positive or negative normally affects the NPV, and with a longer time, it is more likely for the change to occur.
NPV equals total PV of inflows minus total PV of outflows. PV equals FV divided by bracket 1 plus I close bracket. So that concludes our question for Unit 8, question 1. So good night again, sir, and thank you.
All right, thank you, Jason. Thank you, Kirk. As usual, I'll just put a little my take on the matter. So the reason for the greater sensitivity as it relates to long-term projects is simply about time value of money. So if you look at these examples, $10,000 2 years from now, at 10%, present value will be 8264. If the rate goes up to 15%, that present value drops to 7561, a reduction of $703. On the other hand, if the same $10,000 was 10 years from now, the change would be 1,384. Because if you notice, the rate is in the denominator. So if the number of years is greater, that means the interest compounding aspect will be for a larger number of years. So you'll have a much greater impact on that denominator. Right? So it's all about time value of money. All right, all the best. We'll talk again soon.